gotta have the wild cards. I think for me, yeah, there's a couple of different kind of fundamental approaches to it, right? So if in this example we're talking about a bigger e-commerce site, you could assume perhaps they're going to have at least a somewhat decent SEO budget, or however you want to categorize it, budget to be contributing to content for whatever sake. You've got basically two ways in my head you can effectively spend that money. The first one is you agree some kind of time frame, which is where it often falls down because stakeholders want a return faster than is really feasible. So you can say, okay, we're going to start this whole content business. We're going to branch beyond the e-commerce shop. 1 to 2 years, say we want to start putting traffic goals, and where we want to see some return in things like links, visibility, traffic from the awareness or consideration content through to the shop, i.e. revenue. That's when we want to start seeing those kind of markers of success. If you've got the foresight and the patience to agree on that slightly kind of further deadline than I know for a fact a lot of people are willing to give it, I think then you're afforded then the luxury of being able to do that extensive research part of things, where you can go, here's a search volume versus here's our USPs and where we really fit into that, and you can work on then, because bearing in mind, if we're pulling search volume on it, somewhat already exists on it, right? A lot of this is already going to exist on the internet. So the hard bit there, once you've got past the stakeholders wanting returns in 3 months, the hard bit is then to actually stand a chance of achieving something with that content. Yeah, if you're established, you might have a little bit of authority behind you to jump the queue somewhat, but really you're daft unless you're trying to make the best version of that exists already. Like if you're Googling I don't know, like how to stop shin splints when you're running or something like that, you go on, I guarantee there's going to be like thousands of articles on it, and if you go and see the top ones at rudimentary level have 30 ways to reduce shin splints, and you go and produce a top 10 list, it's not a great start. So that's then the next challenge, right? Trying to see in the big picture, going, we've got X amount of time, we want to go in and we want to be the best at all of these topics, answering questions and making that content navigationally succinct in kind of converting to email, product, revenue in whatever form.
Definitely, and I think a really important point on that as well is identifying like a unique angle, like bringing something new to the conversation. I think we're all somewhat fatigued with top 10 of this, top 10 of that. Like, I think we've all got to a point where we recognise this is not the top 10. This is just the top 10 things that one person who wrote the article found. So I think if you can provide unique angles onto that kind of those types of titles and identify that within the kind of within the title, within the target. And so the best way to do this, and this is quite difficult to be honest, we face this as a challenge with a lot of brands, the best way to do that is to go first person, is to have somebody that can talk through those top 10 who's had direct experience. Ultimately, you're never really going to be able to do every single piece of content like that. So how do you find the unique angle, or how do you suggest a level of trust and authority that is unique to the rest of the SERP? So at that point, I would be looking at things like maybe a review panel. Can you get kind of experts involved who on a quarterly basis will go through your top performing posts or your middle performing posts, probably add a level of review to it, you service that on the page, you talk about it. Even more simple than that, if you don't have the budget for that, an editorial policy, an author profile, links through to other relevant content, source quotes from experts through kind of online services like Harrow, where you can just throw a kind of PR request out, get proper insight into the topic. And I think ultimately once you start doing that, you set yourself apart from the rest of the crowd massively. I know that is a focus of kind of search engines as well now, like being able to really prove that trust. But ultimately, I don't think the experience part of the algorithm, the EAT, is massively focused on editorial and kind of inspirational. I think it's a little bit more about kind of trust. So I don't think you need that first person experience for every article, but really consider how you can provide levels of trust and provide unique angles, I think. And that's where it gets fun. Like, that's where the fun is. I don't really want, as a content creator, to be looking at 10 different results on the SERP and going, okay, how do I amalgamate all of these? I want to apply some common sense and some thought and a bit of analysis to it. And that's where conversations happen that lead into further ideas as well. So I think it's really important to, have personality, I suppose. Have a bit of personality, have something about you, make sure that your content is speaking to the right audience, is speaking in the way that they engage with, and is providing them things, your audience, not the market audience, your audience. Provide them with what they're after, use the language that they're interested in, and you will ultimately see better engagement, and that means better rankings. So I think it's quite key. Own your space.